Are we ready to move on to the, well, I have a suggestion. We do have people here in the audience, and I know the Planning Commission was hoping to get our input on that survey before their meeting next week. I think it's going to be maybe a discussion that could take some time. Is anyone opposed to moving it up to our next edition? What?
Jumping to that item? You mean jumping to that item?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Everyone okay?
What are you doing?
We're going to jump down to number 8, the Cobalt survey, to make sure that we do have plenty of time for discussion on that this evening. I'm sorry for the other ones that are waiting here in the audience also. So if no one opposes,
We're going to leave them just in order, then we're just going to take this one.
they'll just take this one.
Okay.
Okay. So the Cobalt survey. Janet, or from the Planning Commission rep, do you want to share any thoughts or what's been going on before we have any discussions?
Well, we all received actually, this is the first draft for us because we haven't seen anything before this, the board, and the Planning Commission had not seen anything yet. So this is coming to us first for the survey. Yes, it's the very first draft that we've actually seen. Okay. So what we're looking for is comments, and my first comment was I wasn't happy with it. I really thought there was going to be, I guess I'm looking at Mr., is it Mulcrone? Yes. Your comments were exactly what my comments were. I didn't like question 11 at all. And I thought that things should have been listed in priority, because otherwise how do you know, what you want, what's most important to that person? Anybody looking at question number 1 could check off 7 things, but what does that mean? It means everybody wants all those 7 things, but which one is most important? So, and basically it was the same way all the way through. So, yeah, I think it needs a lot of tweaking, and I'd like to hear comments from the rest of the board on their thoughts as well.
Kathy, you want to start?
I agree exactly, excuse me, with what you said. And I think that when we get the emails from the people who spoke, that would really help provide input to how to clean this up and provide some suggestions. But I agree exactly with
Yeah, and I know that the public and the board and the Planning Commission, everybody was invited to send in their comments either to the Planning Commission chair or to the board, and I'm assuming whatever got sent in actually went over to Cobalt. So I believe they've gotten them, and I'm hoping that they're listening to this and that we're passing our comments on to them as well. But this was not what I was expecting. I expected more.
I agree. I don't like it at all. I think, well, for many reasons. A lot of the comments that people have made at the call to the public, I agree with 100%. This is not supposed to be about Biltmore. It is for the future of the township. That question, I believe, should be removed, period. The planners that we interviewed at our last meeting, I know Marlene, they're from the Planning Commission, had asked several things about our survey, and they had commented that after 8 to 10 questions, people lose interest. And I think it was two of the planners that were being interviewed said, anything way too long, you'll just lose interest and not get accurate results. Would like to see accurate results, obviously, if we're spending this kind of money. I could keep going. It's not anything that I thought that we would be looking at. I thought it'd be a quick, myself, I thought it'd be like a 10-question survey, because many of these questions, a lot of residents who don't know a lot of what goes on behind, the roads and the sewers and things like that. We could give them full explanations. The whole sewer stuff, developers end up paying for the sewer expansions or the retention basins, things like that, like Lyon Township. Every lot is a $13,000 assessment. So there's so many other factors going on, and I think that it's way too much, and I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't like that it was actually tied to the master plan, because my thought on it was initially that this wasn't about the master plan, that it was just to get an idea of what the public wanted to see in the township or not see in the township, what was important to them, so that both the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees has a better idea of how to make decisions, how to make good decisions for the township based on what the whole community wants. So.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. As we're looking at this cover page, and assuming everyone has been able to see this cover page, there's a list of objectives for review. I think the biggest point here is that this does not meet these objectives. I see things like measure the strength of opinions, most important to residents, relative strength of opinions, and I just think these questions don't give us those answers and meet those objectives. I like the idea of ranking the importance of things, and I think the questions are too leading.
Jackie, got anything?
Well, I listened to all the comments from the call to the public. I do agree with the structure of the questions, how they were structured. Some of the questions contradict each other. So it seems like if they answered one way in one question and a different way in another question, it would knock each other out. I do not like that this was focused specifically, or if it was, the intent to be focused on one developer, but we need to look at like Janet said, the township as a whole, and look at it as what is more important as the total township, not just in a specific area.
Yeah, I'm last, so everybody got to get all their vitriol out. This is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And I'd have to have somebody. I'd like to have somebody from Cobalt come in and talk to me about why this was structured this way and why the questions were done this way before I would ever vote to let it go out. I find fault with the wording of a lot of questions, and I'm not an expert. This is not what I do for a living, and we ought to be able to trust the people that do this for a living to construct something that is better than this. I'm looking at number 7, which says, in your opinion, regardless of your position, what are 2 of the best arguments against more residential? That question presupposes that the person getting the survey has a position. I want to know, I don't just want their position, like thumbs up or thumbs down. I want to get at what people are really feeling and what they're feeling strongly, what they're not maybe understanding, again, I'm going to go back to the fact that I'm not an expert, but I don't think this would get us anything usable. So that's what I've got.
That was a lot faster than I thought. Is that enough for the planning commission?
Yes, and
So
Marlene is
the
here.
concern I have is that this company was picked to provide us a survey. And now we're going back and we're saying, this is unacceptable. So what do we do from here?
Yeah, well, my thought is, if this doesn't get better next time around, I would be questioning that if we want to continue with them. So just my thought.
That was what I wanted to.
Well, where are they getting their direction from? I mean, do they
Us,
have the direction? Do
supposedly.
they? I
Well,
mean,
they need it from us.
mhm.
I mean, the question was asked earlier. It looked like this was the 3rd draft. Did anybody do a draft with them, or is the 3rd draft their own 3rd
Apparently,
draft?
from the communication I saw, the previous drafts were between Charlene Douglas and William St. Amour. We never got to see those. It was something that they were doing. So this is so this is our first draft, but they've had previous drafts.
Have we paid any money to these people? Does anybody know? Excuse me?
We will probably have to pay something up to this point, but I'm questioning whether
We should even ask for another one, just get rid of them.
whether it's worth continuing.
Right, absolutely.
So Marlene is here from the Planning Commission too, and she's heard our comments, and we'll pass them on to at our next Planning Commission meeting as well. we have to have some communication with Cobalt to let everybody know, and let them know that we need something different.
Yeah, but us just saying we need something different.
What are we looking for?
But
Well-
they've gotten input from people, yeah.
I've got some and I don't know where to go with this, but I've got some questions about if they change this to please us,
No,
then we're not, then that's not an expert, that's not expertise. That's us doing the questions. And we're not qualified to do that. And we could have done that ourselves.
but
So,
if this is an expert, I'm concerned.
Well,
We could have done this.
yeah, well, I don't know. I do have some real legitimate concerns about moving forward and asking them to do much of anything else. Maybe the procedure would be to go to them and say, look, you need to talk to us about the methodology here. You need to explain to us why some of these questions are the way that they are, and go from there. Before I would say, I'm not comfortable telling the planning commission, hey, go tell Cobalt to give it another try, because I don't think another try with this group is going to get us anywhere.
Right, without some direction, we're probably gonna get the same thing, maybe trimmed up just a little bit, or, you know. I would like to know, was it their suggestion to put Biltmore in there in that question? It should be on.
Hi. We got a draft at a prior planning commission meeting. Charlene came and gave us kind of the objectives, and we took a look at the objectives, added one or two, and then at the very end, after the meeting was all over, she had some draft questions that they had been putting together in their office. She handed those to us all as we were leaving, so we didn't get to see them during the actual meeting. One of the questions was about Biltmore. And afterward, like I usually do, I read it really carefully. I saw that question, and it was not worded anywhere like I would want to see it. It wasn't accurate. And so I said, I think this question should be removed, and that was my preferred. But they're the experts, so I said, I think this question should be preferred, but if it's not removed, it should be accurate. And then I gave some language, which didn't get used in this draft. But that question existed in the prior draft, the first draft, that we didn't talk about at the Planning Commission. And then this third draft, the question is there. Some of the language was changed, partially to my suggestion, and then a lot was left off. A lot of the very specific portion of it was left off. So that's where that question came from. And then they added a lot of questions, not the format that I would have preferred, from the comments that the planning commissioners made during the meeting. And then you see this draft, which I only saw yesterday. I didn't get it emailed to me ahead of this meeting, so I didn't get a chance to look at it either. So that's kind of where we were at with it. I hope that's helpful.
All right. Any other thoughts, comments? What?
And so where do we go from here with this?
I don't know. Is it, you have a talk with Cobalt and try, see, have them explain where
They're coming to our next meeting, right? Yes.
They're, yeah, I mean, so we know, is this something they're specialized in and that we're not seeing it, or why they came up with it the way it is? Wayne?
Howard, did we give these people any money yet?
I don't believe so, no. I don't know. I have not been involved in this process. Okay? Not.
Okay, you don't know.
I think there's the perception that that's the case out there, and I have not been involved in this process at all. The only My only involvement in this process has been, I wanted Cobalt to be here tonight so that you all could have this conversation with Cobalt. And the response that I got back from Cobalt was that there was no money in the budget.
Right.
And so the choice was that Cobalt could either be here tonight and discuss it with the Board of Trustees, or they could go to an extra planning commission meeting. And Janet and I talked, and we felt as though it would be more appropriate for them to be at the planning commission meeting because the planning commission was more significantly engaged in the conversation with them. That's the extent of the communication that I've had with Cobalt. In addition, I said to Cobalt early on in this conversation, keep this stuff simple in that so that people can understand what it is that you're asking. And in my personal opinion, I don't think it's a very simple survey. I think it's incredibly complicated, and I have indicated that I don't think it's a very good survey. That's my personal opinion. So where to go from here, I don't know. You know,
Well, that's fine. I just wanted to know if we paid them any money yet. If we didn't, maybe we should just get rid of them.
well, we have they have a very specific contract that talks about payment and things of that nature. We are going to owe them money. They have done work.
Yeah, so this is a draft. We'll wait till the next draft.
I can't speak to it because, again, the only thing that I've said from the outset of this conversation is that both the Board of Trustees and the Planning Commission needed to be involved in both the drafting of the questions and, more importantly, in the way that the objectives were worded, because it's supposed to be that the questions are in line with the objectives, and as you've all talked about tonight, it doesn't answer those. And I actually think that many of these questions in this survey are potentially contradictory to themselves. And so you'll get back some information, you'll get back some data, some statistics, and you still will not have a sense of what the community feels like. And I think that, let me just say this, you know, again, it's a challenging debate. As you could see, there are a lot of people that come up here and they speak passionately about it, and I listen. And so, you know, it's tough sometimes to give your opinion as to how to move forward with this. But any company that comes forward, any company, whether or not they have some significant statistical experience or not, and maybe the gentleman that spoke earlier is correct in that there's some statistical flaws in their questions in the way that they're worded. But any company that comes in is going to have a very difficult time drafting the questions, because the questions are a reflection of a debate that's been going on in the community for quite some time. And so, you know, to understand the debate, to understand the nuances of the conversation, it's not something that you have in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so I don't know where to go from here. I know that's a long-winded answer, and I apologize.
Oh, yeah, yes.
I know, Mr. Dock, if you don't like me talking
Well,
much.
I know, I just asked a simple question about the money.
And I chose
That's
to
all
give
I
a
cared
long
about.
answer.
We should
Okay,
move
so
on.
we'll discuss it at the Planning Commission next meeting.
All right, any other thoughts before we move on? Okay, let's go back to playing musical chairs, and we'll go back to number 4. Well, you know, well, never mind. Salvage vehicle inspections.